Namaste, fellow waves in the ocean of love and consciousness. We are back. The bell has been rung. It is time for After the Bell again with our spiritual brother from another mother, Mama Meyer. Ben Myers is in the building. Welcome back, my brother.
So good to be here, Gabes. We're in for a doozy today, man. Paluso is an absolute legend.
Big Loose. And I think people are going to quickly pick up on you have big Chris Thorburn, just a big teddy bear. Then you got an even tougher dude in Big Loose, and he's just a big softy too. It's the same pattern going to be repeated here, people.
You know what gets me is the amazing people we've had the privilege of talking to, chatting with. I've noticed one thing about all of them. Off the ice, so far, I can't speak for everybody that gets in the ring, on the ice, but there's an art to this fighting and such a mutual respect of people's approach, of people's tactics, of people's game plans and preparation. I just noticed when you two were talking, the coolest thing was like it's this brotherhood of like the respect off the ice of like, yeah, once we're going at it and throwing knuckles and stuff like that, we're trying to beat the shit out of each other. But off the ice, it's such like a tip of the hat. Like you said, you guys were like chirping in the box and stuff like that. And he was just like, no, I know, he was just excited. That was his second fight. Like I love that mutual respect between you guys.
It's something special in sports, and I think why a lot of people resonated with it in hockey. Of course, there's the odd situation that gets heated, but those are always glossed over when guys get traded to the same team. They go out and have a beer, they go meet the families, and it's just like water under a bridge, right? But yeah, that was very cool. That one specific story he shared of Eric Goddard, who was just a legend with the Pittsburgh Penguins fighting the heavies, and he like his fights with Riley Cote back in the day, like this guy could throw both hands. He could take a million punches, but him saying to Loose after, like, dude, you got a gift with those arms. Like you're 6'3", but your arm, his wingspan's probably 6'7", 6'8". And he knows to just hold on, as that coach told him and that other player told him, just wait for your punch, get set. You only have to hit him hard once, and it changes people.
He said something really interesting in that his like one it's like it was his golden rule, at least that's how I took it, was never to fight mad, because when he would fight mad, or he finds that when people fight mad, you get lost in the emotions and it goes out everything you've prepped for kind of goes out the window because you get swept away in the emotional wave of it all. When you were playing, did you find, I know you were much more like I say like a grinder, an emotional fighter, like you wanted to bring energy to it, so you kind of use that as a tool. What were your thoughts when he said that?
It's a great prompt. It's a great look into the mindset here, because you could tell by the way he fought, he was never mad. It was getting set. He was calm. His face was calm in the fights of all I've like watched. Like, and he said he got mad once with Sestito when a guy got under his skin. But for me, I'd have to say I probably got mad out of my 137 tilts like 10 to 15 times, definitely more. But those were where all the risk happened, a huge risk reward. But I definitely can say that my best fights were when there was no animosity, no anger. It wasn't clinical. It wasn't emotionless. It was present. It was grounded. It was, I deserve to be here. I'm good enough to be here. I put in the work to be here. I don't hate my opponent. Let's just have fun with this and what we're doing. And I could not agree with what he said more. And you can apply that, I'm sure, with a lot of the people you've worked with in your own life with mental health coaching and how emotions, we're not going to come from the best place when they're that heated.
Good and bad. I think that's what something to remember is good emotions like happiness, joy, pride, courage. That stuff comes and that stuff goes. Anger, grief, sadness, resentment, bitterness, that stuff comes, that stuff goes. I think the biggest thing you can do is in the moment recognize, and they say name it to tame it, but once you let it know it's there, you go, this is worry, this feels like anger. And this is going to be a little, like a deep dive into like a coaching session with me. It's don't ever say, I am angry, I am bitter, because you're identifying as the emotion, telling your subconscious mind, like, I identify as this, we want more of it. You can say, I'm experiencing anger, I'm feeling this. So it lets your mind know that you are separate from the emotion. And it just ties into like the fighting game, right? It's a lot less about fighting and a lot more art form, a lot more intentionality of, hey, we're doing this to hype up the team. Like, it's not about beating the shit out of the other person. Actually, it's usually far from it. So if those emotions come in, it doesn't just change your team's environment, your team's energy, or your energy, it changes the whole outlook of how you are playing and enjoying the game.
Very true. This isn't MMA. There isn't a big build up in mind games and stuff. It's pretty organic usually. It's pretty emotional, but it's coming from the right place. But man, what you said there, the language we use and the little reminders, if that's something that feels weird to say, that not saying I am angry, saying I am experiencing anger, if that feels weird, but we have to put in the reps there. We have to write it out. We have to constantly tune our language. We have to put sticky notes. I have pen marks of I on each hand right now that that's as I'm leaning into my own journey and where I'm at, that's where I'm reminding myself of. So if people have to do the work to get there, it seems arduous, it seems clunky, it seems strange. I'm talking to myself in the third person. It's like, this is the work, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah. It's labeling these things as good and bad. And I'm not going to sit here from a high horse, because I know starting out on the inner work journey, it's so easy to be like, no, when I'm angry, I want to punch people in the face because I want to smash their jaw in. That's anger. That's bad. And realizing that when we label them good and bad, that's when we get ourselves into a lot of trouble, is because now the bad stuff we're trying to avoid more. And the more we avoid it, the faster it runs, and it gets to us usually 5 times as fast. And when we talk about, we want more of that good stuff, the love, the abundance, the wealth, all of the things that just make us feel warm and fuzzy, sunshine and rainbows, peaches and cream. We grip it so tight that it's not an environment that those emotions want to stay in, because they can't breathe. There's no room for flow. So just like when the bad emotions come in, let them come through, feel them, process them, and honor them. When the good emotions come through, sit with them, honor them, and process them, and let them move through. It's all energy, right? It's all about give and take, back and forth.
That's so beautiful. I think that leads into one of your things you pointed out, was that you're big on how do we measure impact and success on things like this. Speaking of how am I differentiating myself from these emotions to be able to see them clearly and not get attached, Big Paluso said, as a fourth line grinder, he was really not worried about the points. It was how much time was that puck on his stick below the blue line, below the dots in the ozone, ragging pucks, eating time, being hard to play against. That's how he started to measure his success. That we can't measure as fourth line grinders how many goals we're going to score and be wrapped up in holding our stick too tight. That enabled him to focus on a tangible thing that he could measure in minutes and ice time, seconds in that zone. And that was a good way for him to be like, hey, I didn't get a point tonight. I didn't get a shot on goal, but guess what? I did measurable things. How do you think we can apply this to this specific thing we're talking about, of trying to differentiate ourselves from these intense emotions?
So something he did was incredible. He redefined what success looked like to him. He took it off the stat sheet. Now you can measure some of those things, but it's more, what type of impact did I have? Because he could have had 20 minutes on the ice and rarely touched the puck, didn't get on the forecheck, didn't dump it. Like, he could have done all of that, and for 28 minutes, it would have been like, wow, he got playing time. But he might be only getting 5 minutes on the ice, but every time it touched his puck, he did something. He maybe had an assist, did a dump, cleared it, right? All of these things. So what we do is take it from Paluso, right? Is thinking about, like, how do we redefine what success and impact looks like in our daily life? Maybe if you're worried about like financial success, it's not how much money is going in my bank account. How much money am I spending that's having an impact on others and an impact on my life? Whether you're a business owner or you're trying to pay for your kids' Christmas or whatever it may be, it's not the amount of money, it's the ability and the impact that money is going to have. Because I know for me, when it comes to Christmases and gifts and stuff like that, my parents are awesome. I remember the moments. I remember the heartfelt stuff way more than I remember the amount of things.
Beautiful. Yeah. It can get tricky though on this path to measure our successes with these things. And it seems too simplistic to just have a journal and write our wins in, like you've shared before, right? Like stacking wins. It seems almost like pointless, but it's like we have to push through that kind of awkwardness that this is strange. Like, other people don't this. Why should I? It's like, well, what's the goal here? Are we trying to impress other people? Or are we trying to work on our journey?
Well, people want to overcomplicate things. Because if we were to sit here and be like, no, what you're doing is creating new neural pathways and new neuroplasticity, and you're doing this, you're activating your parasympathetic, people are going to be like, shut up, nerd. But if you tell them, hey, the answer is just journaling. If you just write down your wins, you're going to look for more wins. You're going to recognize when there's more of them in your life. And they go, that sounds stupid. The answers are often really, really simple.
Yeah.
The magic is in the execution of it and the discipline of showing up and doing it on the days you don't want to do it. And then you notice once you get more repetition, you build the habit, you build the muscle, all of a sudden, it's not as hard or woo-woo or whatever it is. It's, oh, athletes visualize not because they want to just picture themselves winning a game or winning a fight. It's because it's proven to lead to success and your mind is preparing for the moment. Jack Hughes for the USA, right? Like he said he was visualizing a game-winning goal. Like they do this even when they just can't sleep at night. Like visualizing, journaling, writing, preparing, it's all part of the journey to success.
Yes. And we need to find these analogies. And that have been so powerful for me. Find these analogies that we can visualize in our day of, yes, when it's hard, it's like, okay, well, like David R. Hawkins said, how hard is it to build a freaking rocket these days? You have to get all the scientists together. You have to do all this rocket science. It's the hardest type of science there is. You got to get the rocket on the tarmac. You got to fuel it. When that thing gets lit and it takes off, it takes so much thrust. It takes so much effort to lift just an inch off the ground. That's how hard it feels early on in our journey. It feels uncomfortable. It feels clunky. But having these visualizations to aid us, to bring us that piece of like, okay, I'm just in those early days in the trenches right now. I'm building a life that I'm not going to want to escape from. Yes, it's supposed to be hard. Perfect. It's hard. Journal that. It's supposed to be hard and it feels hard right now. Let's go. And that rocket, as it gets higher, the air gets lighter. It gets easier. It gets easier. And one day, people, I promise, on your journey, the only thing that matters, you don't give up. It's going to break through. That rocket's going to break through into orbit and it no longer needs a push. It's just going on momentum. Everything you've built is because you've become it. It's not something you continually have to, oh, I have to go do this. You've become what you're seeking, that healing process.
Well, think about even all of the things you're talking about. Paluso talked about it. He was talking about like having a place to be vulnerable, talk about emotions and things like that. If you don't have this place to talk about these type of things and be like, hey, if you don't know how to talk to yourself about when things get hard, you don't know when it feels like it's difficult, that it's okay to feel that way. You're never going to break through because you think that's the ceiling. You think that's the end of the road. It's like, no, this is just difficult. I can't do this, or this is just what it's always going to be. But you get back from life-saving fires and you sit down and you have a former NHL player sit down and be like, hey boys, how are we feeling? Let's check in. And all of a sudden you go, wait, huh? I can talk about this. He's such a light and an example by just being who he was. Like you said, you run into him on the ice. You're like, you're a big, scary dude. You are a large human being that will beat the shit out of me. But then he goes in, saves lives, saves structures, saves like people's like literal lives, and comes back and he's looking out not only for himself because he knows vulnerability and emotional processing is important. He looks out for now his new team, which I think in order to get that rocket into orbit, we have to understand how we're feeling and check the temperature of the room around us too.
Wasn't that incredible when he shared that? He's just I asked him about, PTSD. I'm asking about how this can be difficult and how is this fight different than hockey? And he just goes right into, man, like, honestly, we have a rough call and I can just feel the guys are in their heads. They're ruminating on, like, I just pull up a chair at the table by the coffee and say, all right, let's go. Let's talk about it. Like, that is so beautiful. Could you imagine? That's how fathers led, throughout the world, of just like something shit happens in the family. Let's just sit down and air it out. Let's air it out. Who's struggling the most with this?
The biggest thing, right, is I hate the term toxic masculinity, but there's a toxicity to it, right? It's sitting in this masculine, we'll call it energy, and it being like, there's expectation of you can't be weak, you can't talk about emotions, you can't be sad, you can't cry, you can't. But realizing like, we're all human beings. Like that's part of our programming. We're supposed to feel that. The problem isn't that we feel it and that we want to talk about it. It's that we don't have a relationship with the emotions. So by simply just being one of the dudes, sitting down and being like, all right, guys, swinging the chair around, sitting down and be like, how do we feel? He takes all of the pressure off of talking about feelings because it just seems so casual to him. Like, I don't know if you pick it up with him, like there's just this calming energy to him. Like when I watched that interview, I sat there and I was like, there's no way that guy was that guy. And even with Thorbs, I thought the same thing. I go, there's no way that guy is that. Like, there's just this energy, right? And success makes sense when you see people off the ice and how they interact. Like, because the way he practices that now, I'm like, oh, of course. He might not view his time in the NHL as top tier, like you said, like more than a cup of coffee type of stuff. But look at the impact he's having on lives and perspective. Like, I think he's an incredibly inspiring human being.
And then to take that out of the fire station and then want to show up for his sons in hockey and be a part of the board and just say, as this, I'm sure the only NHLer on their little minor hockey board, I would assume, to have that just presence in the room, the way he holds it in a fire station, doing it in a hockey setting would just feel like absolute shooting fish in a barrel now compared. And he's just like, what's the point of what we're doing here? Like, what is the end goal of these kids playing? Is it to make the NHL? It better not be. You know, what are we cultivating here? This should be about fun. It should be about learning and growth. And I can't remember the guy's name, but I saw him on Lewis Howes, this psychologist, really breaking down that if you're going to step into competitive sports, and we both speak at length about how much it can teach you, but it ain't some walk in the park. It's not some little sandbox lesson. Like, it can get really hard when we start stacking each other against each other in competition and you know, the hierarchy of it. So I do agree that sports should almost really have this place where it's recreational, it's house league. And if you want to step into that place, that's a choice.
You know, you could speak on the professional side of things and what it takes and the type of mindset, you know, being able to work with people in that space and speaking to professional athletes and what it does to their mindset is kind of more where I'm able to sit in a little bit. And what I've noticed is if you're not having fun on the way up, you're not going to enjoy it while you're there. And you'll enjoy the money, of course, you'll enjoy the lifestyle changes, but if you're not enjoying the process, that's going to be a short enjoyment before it becomes burnout, before you no longer care about the money, you no longer care about the fame, you no longer care. Because if you didn't enjoy it and learn how to enjoy it from, you guys talk about like going at like age 10, like imagine from age 10 to 30, you're doing things you don't enjoy. Like, I don't care if you're working construction, if you're a teacher, if you're a counselor, a therapist, like if you're spending 20 years in a profession that you're not having fun and enjoyment in, like no amount of money is going to bring that joy. So I think it's such a huge thing. It's like, hey, whatever the end goal is, make sure you're just having fun and enjoying the process of it all.
We need more people following their joy into their livelihoods. You know, it's going to be, Kyle Dubas had a commencement speech. Was longtime GM of the Leafs and now the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it was at Brock. And he just said, hey, like, go after your highest excitement, your joy, because there's going to be hard days doing that. But that's what helps get you through. And, you know, not all of us are there. Some of us are privileged to fall into these places and have the one in whatever the odds to make it to the level that me and Paluso did. But it doesn't change that all of us should be working towards our highest excitement, our joy. And if you can't, do the work on the side to then be able to have that opportunity, make it your hobby until it become your passion. But we need more people following that passion in life.
The YouTubeification, the how-to, everything had to become not just a hobby, but you have to make content around it now. You have to show people that it's more than a hobby. You're more than proficient at it. You're like all of these things where before you used to be able to just sit in a shed and figure out woodworking, and the joy of figuring out the process instead of having to watch somebody do it, comparing yourself to them, comparing yourself to their finished product, their timeline, and everything like that is just, you can look up how to do anything these days. But I think we forget to ask ourselves is, do I want to do it that way? Or do I require, or do I express in a different way? And I think so many of us don't understand ourselves and how we learn and how we approach, whether it be sports, hobbies, professions, our personal lives, that we need to take a moment to be like, hey, let's shut the lights off. Let's turn the cameras off for a minute and see what I require for this and see if I actually like it.
And that's why we're always going to point people back here to know thyself first. You don't know where to do in life. You don't know where to go. Stop running outward. Look inward. Know thyself first. And it clearly seems like Luce knew that he wanted to be in a profession helping people, and he saw the transition to firefighting. But then, as you saw in the interview, I was shocked at, like, even with his resume, it was so challenging to get into it, but he had that purpose. He had that meaning to do it, which allowed him to go in that year and a half. Okay, I'm not going to stay idle and just hope on my resume. I'm going to go better it. I'm going to go work up building houses. I'm going to go lean in. And he didn't share much, but he did drop on us that it was the hardest transition for him, the absolute hardest transition, even from hockey playing to firefighting. When he left the game kind of not on his terms, he wasn't ready for the game to leave him, and it kind of did, which you could tell I was quite shocked by.
Yeah. There's a theme, right? When we talk to people, there's this identity of being, I don't even want to say a professional hockey player, a athlete. And then when that ends, you have so many skills, you have so much proof deposited into this one thing that the blinders are on of like, if I'm not this, then what the hell am I? And then that's when the whole, I need to know thyself. And there's this not so much like even of just like knowing thyself, is it's remembering in that process, you don't have to like yourself at first. You're getting to know a completely different version of yourself. That's scary. So when he said that, he retired and then built a house. Like, I'm sitting there just like, once again, transition in life all looks different to everybody else. But remember, like, he followed purpose. There was like the service and purpose it just seems like it's built in his DNA. And that led to, he found like there's a competitive of like, I want to train, I want to become a firefighter, I want to do these things. He enjoyed that. But how can you relate your experience to your next chapter? First is it's look inward and see how those things relate. And do I want to do that and become that too?
And as people are going to find out as we build this course and it gets out there of exactly for this fighter, this player, this athlete going through identity change, it's how important getting out of our freaking sympathetic nervous system of fight or flight into our parasympathetic. And it sounds like for Big Loose, for a guy that was pretty tapped in emotionally, that his partner became that kind of nervous system safe place where he felt like he could be vulnerable and be himself, being with her for that long. And again, that's surrounding yourself with people who are apparently one way or another doing the work or just adapted it already. She sounds like someone that was able to hold that space for him in that time and allow him to explore and allow him to feel.
You know what they say, behind every good man, right? There's an even better woman. And it's that quote goes so much beyond even just partners. It goes on, what room are you sitting in? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Because I can imagine as a pro athlete, you can find yourself sitting in rooms of a lot of people looking to take. A lot of people looking to take from you, whether it be your image, whether it be money, whether it be just your energy, because you've made it to the cream of the crop, the top of all of the top. You made it to the league, right? Well, who are you surrounding yourself with? People that have your best interest, people that will support you when things are tough, when you're going overseas and it's not going how you want it to go. Like, who's going to be your rock when all of that happens? Whether it be a partner, whether it be a parent, whether it be a friend, whether it just be a former teammate. Be so conscious of who you are spending your time with, what room you're sitting in, because when you're sitting in the wrong room, you will never know what the right room feels like.
I've talked to so many people through this healing journey and sharing notes along the way of just, it's so hard when these people that we've had in our lives, they fall away, and you have to sit in that with them. And I've had the same thing, and people sit with me just like that. You gotta make room. You know, everything has this cycle of yin yang, death and birth, and the people that are going to be there for you can't miss you. And if some people have to fall away for you to kind of find that new tribe, that is something that we have to lean into, because, man, going from that fighter persona and that lifestyle, I had so many people who were just so plugged in. The first thing we'd speak about is now something that I have absolutely no intention to be speaking about anymore. Something that was draining my energy, something that was taking me away from knowing myself and doing the work. And that's just kind of part of the deal.
Well, and take the hat off to you, right? You've separated yourself. I think of it as like the pendulum effect, right? We swing so far one direction because we're trying to distance ourselves. There was this version of you that recognized that there was so much emptiness and displeasure, unhappiness, all of the things, not just because of whether the sport, the way it treated you, the injury, whatever it may have been, circumstances, politics, all of the stuff, right? It was so much more. Now you've done the inner work, and now you're coming back and you're stepping back into the arena with it from a whole different perspective. So the people that you are coming in contact with, people that you are maybe investing your time in with, have a whole different outlook, and they're not trying to get the highlight reel of what it was like to chase Chara around if you're Thorbs and try to get a fight. Like, people aren't looking for that adrenaline high. They want to hear about the art of it. What was your experience? How did it make you feel going through it? What's your life now? What's your hero's journey about it now? Which is a whole different conversation than, hey man, how is that fight? Like, are you going back up and down like in the league and stuff like that? So I want to just tip my hat to you, man. I love the courage it takes to jump back into the arena and change the narrative, not just for other people to listen to, but the narrative of your life. It's incredibly impressive.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I know you've been through your freaking hard ass times too. When you were coming through this and you were in that certain space, you know, that you don't want to move back to, that place where you went through hard times, was that part of that shedding for you as well? Was there a group of people, whether any other part of your life that you felt like you just kind of had to fall away? And how was that experience?
It's learning. Everything in my mind I've pictured as patterns. I've experienced it all. It's just a different flavor of soda, just a different flavor of water, whatever it is, just different flavor, different season. And recognizing that you have an opportunity to approach a similar pattern with the lessons you've taken away. So, you know, maybe emergency lights will go on, but it doesn't mean I have to respond the same way I did. Um, it's scary because you don't know how to respond then. So like you said, moving back to places that you've experienced trauma and stuff like that, you want to act out. You want to be someone who gets loud and puffs your, especially I say as dudes, like you want to puff your chest and be like rock solid, but understanding like you're able to say like, no, that's a boundary for me. I can't do that. And that's okay. I've been through enough. I've learned that lesson. And this is my opportunity to show myself that no is a complete sentence. For whatever it may be. I don't want to is a valid reason not to do things. So yeah, that experience in my life brought me to the now, without going into all the details, hey, you're strong enough just to say no, and that's not something you can do. And the right people will respect that.
But you cultivated that intuition as something that when we're so out of touch and going through tough times, it's hard to hear and hard to know, and it's going to be so hard to make decisions. But I think that's what we both advocate for, is doing this work on ourselves. That's what strengthens. That's what becomes our compass. It become a knowing.
Yeah, intuition's a tricky thing, right? It can mask itself a lot as anxiety and intrusive thoughts, or just thoughts in general. It's often the first thing where like intuition will speak in facts or in like complete sentences or like a complete like statement, and anxiety and the thoughts will usually pose as a question like, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if you do that? What will happen? Where for me, like the thing came up and it was like, no. I was like, oh, okay. That's just an instant, like, that's my intuition being like, okay, I checked in with how I felt. And then obviously all the questions start. But yeah, such an important thing is step back, and you talk about meditation and breathing a lot, and being able to do that and separate yourself from the overwhelm and the wave of everything, and just to be able to observe the wave and understand like it's okay to be caught in the swell. It's okay to be doing all this stuff. But if you don't take time to learn what that looks like and the meditation or the mindfulness practice looks like, you're going to repeat the same things over and over again.
Dude, you just dropped a gem. We're going to clip that one out. Like, holy cow. Our intuition talks in complete sentences, and it's almost to me, I want to like, it feels like, yeah, your intuition starts to talk to you in like paragraphs and essays of strength, and it overshadows those questions. The questions start coming in, and that inner narrative that comes forth becomes to be like a protector to it. I resonate with that. That was a little nectar drop, a little channel for everybody. That's beautiful how to visualize that. They always, the negative voice, the ego comes in with questions, whereas our intuition comes with statements. That was, and honestly, it seems like Thorbs and Big Loose are two guys that have been naturally intuitive with what they need to feel. I mean, with Thorbs going right into hitting the bag again and working with this fighting guy, you know, Big Loose being able to step outside, even in terrible circumstances, to be like, hey, I need to just find new purpose. I'm leaning in. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to take my hockey mindset. The game might be done with me. I'm taking it into firefighting. These guys have been intuitive so far.
It's incredible. And once again, most what you hear, they'll talk about their hockey experience, but you could even with Paluso, right? He was like, there was almost more light behind him when he was talking about afterwards, like everything, like he figured out the journey and stuff like that. And you talk about Thorbs, he like, there's that intuitive pull of, hey, you were pulled beyond just sport. You were pulled to purpose and service and all of those things, which is incredible. You got Thorbs helping player development, people coming up. You have Paluso helping save lives, and not only save lives and, you know, firefighting, but helping the team as he's doing it. He's creating a whole new breed, or helping train a whole new breed of firefighters with like emotional, we'll call it safety and awareness. They were pulled, man, and they listened. It's incredible to see people listen to that pull.
They've really turned the fight plan on the ice to a fight plan off the ice, of just seeing, hey, everything I go through is just a stepping stone. It's just another way for me to get better, grow, be better of service to others. And ultimately, when I'm giving, it serves myself the best. Brother, what a second after the bell. What a time. We're always going to have a hard time keeping these 30 minutes. We have so much fun talking, but what an episode. What a channel there at the end. A great visual for people to lean into. Thank you so much, as always, my man. This is wonderful.
Sending love to everybody.
Namaste, everybody. After the bell, wrapped up episode 2. The Fight Plan podcast just getting going. Stay tuned, people. Stay tuned. Unreal, dude. Unreal.
Hell
channel.
Yeah.
That was a sick channel by you. I learned something from you on that one, brother.